So, yeah. I don't know. Chewing gum. Just got back from a phone call. Got interrupted. So, I tend to get called out sometimes for doing stuff. And it depends on why I should care. If I care. I evaluate my incentives and then I decide whether I should care or not. Or what the consequences are of caring. Of not caring. And right now, depends on what people call me out for. I choose not to care. That's kind of how social rules work. That's how you get incentives accurately aligned. So yeah, I think Elon should join up with Boeing. Continue on. I think he should start learning how to sell food industry. I think he should learn how to be an efficient Amazon e-commerce seller and be a legitimate e-commerce seller that sells goods. I do think he's going to be email marketing someday. Because the airplane industry is annoying too. They email market too, don't you? Don't they just serve food in front of your face? And you, as the passenger, are annoyed. Really, really annoyed. They are. Right? They just shove popcorn in your face. Buy this, right? It's like the Seahawks, right? Now, Elon, I think, here's what I think a role he can play. Should be a food connoisseur. He should bring better tasting food because he already knows how to make rocket food. It's not such a stretch, right? Maybe they can offer rocket food. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. Offer it to the passengers. You have something. And every year or so, they can do a yearly rocket exercise with the other space companies to see how far they reach the planet. They don't have to be serious about competing. What we should be competing for is legitimate progress. Right? Now here's where we shouldn't really be, in the sense that we should be competing for... we shouldn't be competing, honestly, in terms of rockets, but we should be working together, right? So we can compete if you want, right? Maybe some rockets, we should compete on who colonizes the most. That's what I'm going to say, not who flies. So let's start with the moon. All right, who can build the most amount of actual stores? That's the real competition. It should not be who flies. There's no money. People don't throw money on the screen for that. And let's just have people do WWE style like flying. That way people can be like, that looks cool. Have that, and that shouldn't be Photoshop. People should see it live. I want to see satellites. I want to see the Hubble Space Telescope capture that, right? Right? I don't want Photoshop gimmicks, which, by the way, every Instagram influencer just seems to love using. Right, this is the one thing I don't like about people with college degrees, and this is what I love about it. If I can game the system. Right. Now I'm going to tell the truth about this. They just sell you a bunch of concepts. You don't know if it sells a unit. There's a legitimate question about the school system, at least from a CEO perspective. And then there's a legitimate reason to be homeschooled because at least you know what's going on when you teach someone, right? And you get a cheaper worker too. Right? At least you know what goes in and outside of that person, right? You know their components if you get them to the homeschooling. Like, and they want to take your boot camp or take your advice, right? At least you know what's going on. At least you have a more accurate tracker. When you hire someone with a degree, you don't know what the tracker is, right? You don't know if they use Chegg. You don't know if they game the system using Rate My Professor to find easy teachers. There's a lot of questions, right? Do you know if the class is taught by someone who got easy A's, maybe easy C pluses? I don't know. There's no way I'm going to school anytime soon. I don't think the money's there and stuff. My gut feeling is that I probably might as well tell the truth about this. Don't worry, that will not go away. But as an employer, in terms of whether the company profits, you need to ask these questions. Because it prevents less office clusterfucks, right? You'll never stop that. As CEO of Amazon or anyone, you know that's always going to continue. But in terms of whether I hire you, different story. Right? It doesn't mean you won't hire them. It just means maybe you need to run some errands for me, right? Because at the end of the day, having a real transparent conversation is all that matters in terms of doing stuff, in terms of achieving a strategic objective. Right? I can suggest to you this because I'm outside the school system and I've pondered about this for a while. That's precisely why I can suggest this to you. Right? And the whole reason why SpaceX race thing was a thing is because a lot of college degrees people just think that looks cool. I saw that on Instagram. That's not what makes money in reality. The big winners who makes money. Let's not forget about that. Now let's compete about who can set up the most buildings. Let's compete about who can create floating islands. Let's not think that big right now. Now, if you're a prodigy and you can do that instantly with like no cash, great. People will buy into you, get bought off, right? Let's test. Yeah. So they should fly airplanes. They should do models, and maybe because there's so many fast foods, Elon gets fast food experience, right? Right. He gets e-commerce experience on the side if he's willing to take more risk. Right? Because a lot of these fast food restaurants like Burger King, they're all in Boeing, right? I don't think Eve actually runs one, but setting up with her would be the right way. Could maybe someone else. I don't know. I don't think you can say. You might be able to talk to Boeing leadership. See what happens. Elon's more. No offense. Elon appears more legitimate than Jeff Bezos. He seems real. Sure, you can sell good fast food and stuff. You may be able to build a SpaceX and you can just offer commercial skits your SpaceX rocket launching. It could just be a low quality model. Who wouldn't pay for that? Then you can make money even with inferior models. You don't need 27 rockets. Maybe you won't need 5 for a propulsion engine. People will agree to that. I might do it once every 3 months, right? I don't know. Yeah, he says, well, if you buy more burgers, right? Elon Musk style, right? You don't need a superior model all the time. People will agree to that. It looks cool. It looks awesome. You get an inferior model. Don't have to try hard to design. Just say, hey, I need some funding for some superior airplane models. Can you help me on this? Why don't you buy some burgers, right? Buy some fries. Buy some French fries, Let's have a Kickstarter quota. Elon's flexible, right? Right? Once you work for Boeing, you just bounce between these companies. You're really flexible. You get some start e-commerce experience for free. Of course, the resource usage. You have to purchase from a supplier, all the database, all the WMS warehouse management systems, all the database, all the Oracle databases, everything is all set in gear and running. Everything's functioning. All your supply chain, all your KPIs are all properly set up. You do not have to pay for anything, right? Elon just has to do a little transfer over. Just do that. Yeah, sorry. I have to bump the homeschoolers up. That's just reality. You actually have a transparent conversation with the homeschoolers. As long as they try as hard, right? They make up the effort. As long as they're willing to put in all the effort, like they try 4 or 10 times as hard, right? You now know, okay, now I know your weaknesses, your strengths. I'll ask you I know what painful questions to ask you. Now I can hire you. Yeah, and he's like, okay, yes, I know you use Chegg, but you're also doing more marketing than anyone else on my team. I don't care. You can safely say that. It's like, okay, I know there's not going to be any real bullshit, right? I'm not going to give you, Elon is scary in the office, right? Yeah. So I market for Amazon. I can tell you that I'm never going to be afraid to have a conversation with Jeff Bezos, period. Even if it seems like he'll shoot me in the face, because I'm willing to market for a company I don't like. Right? That's experience. All right, it's willing to sacrifice your ego for the greater good. Look, there's a lot of people I advertise. I don't really like them at the end of the day. Do I care? Right? The only real experience you get for sacrificing your ego, that really comes from outside the school system. Right? You got to prove yourself harder. School is you can stay in your little own squishy box. I would love to go back to school and just get a degree and leave. You can feel comfortable. You get that nice cheddar. I'm not going to make the rat sound this time, because I'm thinking of this really maturely right now. How if I chew gum, I'm less motivated to be high energetic. Right? I serious. Popcorn, movie theaters, maybe, right? Doesn't Boeing spam movies? A little AMC, right? You got a lot of things going. And Jeff too. I'm just saying, there's something you can jump towards. Get Jeff's help. Maybe they can split profits. Who knows? Right? And then the cars, right? The taxis. Maybe those are Elon's cars. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of subsidy plan. There's a lot of shenanigans you can get. Helpful shenanigans. Now, the unfortunate part is he may have to restructure, start over. He may have to fire all his staffers, except for the factory people from corporate, because they caused this. Not saying he should. I'm just saying that feels like that's the likely scenario. It's terrible. But you're working for a big company. It's just kind of it's just one of those things you don't really want to talk about for too long. I was like, well, look for another job. I'm sorry. There's too much funny money. Too much funny paperwork. It's over. So once Elon gets that experience, Amazon seller, he can now form his own Amazon. It's not a stretch anymore. He already has experience with PayPal. Now, I don't know. The future is bright. Elon can... And Elon is going to really have to work at it, right? He's going to have to hustle. Now he doesn't have to suffer for failures on the news like that Tesla car model. Right? Maybe that he won't have, he can set up his verification systems. He's got an actual future, right? Right? There's a video shows Tesla speeding for fatal, right? He doesn't have to suffer these scandals, right? In my opinion, a lot of this stuff is just a product of corporate workers not knowing how to do their job right. Now, it doesn't mean it won't happen, but getting it in the media, right? That's a product of bad marketing team. Elon's got a lot of people he needs to fire. What I would have done is what's the context for all of this? It's well, that's true. They got traded it, but don't trades happen all the time? Don't people hate their cars so much they trade all the time? That's pretty common, actually. Once you add context, that news story goes away. Right? Video shows Tesla speeding for fatal Coral Gables crash. How common are car crashes among the other older models for the other companies like GM and Ford? Pretty common, actually. Probably a lot higher, possibly. If not similar. The key is to make it similar. Well, once you do a comparison, well, that news story goes away. Doesn't affect your sales, at least. Right? This marketing team isn't aggressive. It really is not aggressive. It's not aggressive in the right way. Here is the right way a marketing team does. Hey, I want to learn how to attack like Candace Owens. Go to Candace Owens, set up a meeting. You know what I don't hear? That story. You know what that sounds like? A lazy marketing team that doesn't know what the hell's going on. Right? You got a college degree, don't you? You're supposedly qualified to learn this stuff. You should know when to be humble to someone unqualified who's doing a really good job of making a very vibrant stance, right? Of gathering a following despite being ridiculed. You need to know how to make money while being ridiculed, right? Learn from AOC. It doesn't matter, right? That's the right thing to do. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to the schools. There's standardization. People take tests. There's grade curves. You should ask questions about that. I feel like this is a product of people who took too many grade curves. Right? People just don't know what's going on. Like, oh, you scored a 20% on a social marketing B2B exam, right? Hey, look, I grade curved you by 40%. Is that really what you want in an employee? Right? Do you want to focus in on the fact he got an A+ because whoever got 60% got an A+? Or do you want to focus in on the fact that he actually got 20% and that he may not be someone I want to hire right now? Ask. This happens everywhere in all the prestigious schools. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you need your company to be solvent, right? People need to understand this stuff. I'm human. Yeah, it's fine. Hire someone with a C+. That's fine. But you cannot capture these things in an interview process. Yeah, look, I'm sorry. You like your profs. I don't know which school Elon goes to. But might like schools. But you need to have an honest conversation right now. If you're concerned about Tesla going bankrupt, if you're Elon, right? Have a very honest conversation about this topic. All right, what happened? You using Course Hero? I'm hearing conversation like that. Well, now we're going in the right direction. How often? If it's 20%, I don't know if that's believable. Because what's wrong with my company? What's wrong with Apple's company? What's wrong with Microsoft? Does that sound believable to you? Like what they're saying, like it's only 40%? By using solution manuals, I'm also talking about tutors, right? Let's hear more about this. Right, about X candidate, right? I don't know. Where's the paper trail? Can I take a look through the NSA? I'm yeah, that's a legitimate question, ain't it? All right, this affects how your company performs, doesn't it? But yeah, if Elon takes his time, learns to flip burgers, I'm serious. It takes over, or not indirectly, of course, indirect influence, right? And he gives suggestion supervisions, he bumps McDonald's, whoever, whatever, right? He can sell his own fast food chain, helps Boeing later on, right? It's a payment, right? He helps them. Helps them all. Gets his own airplanes, everything starts up. He's profitable again with his $800 stock or whatever, probably $1,000 or something by now. Boeing gets some bump too, doesn't it? Right? Boeing's planes function better as Elon looks through the CAD graphic imaging, 3D imaging software, right? He's thinking of some better propulsion systems, right? The reason why some of Boeing's planes collapse is probably because their propulsion systems and their back-end and front-end fuel engines probably don't function that well. Elon's very good at figuring out the right materials and the right fuselages to connect together. And you might need a neural network. You don't know. All right, you don't know. Elon's very skilled at that. Remember Starlink? I'm searching this stuff up. This is a very big topic, right? Starlink. You may need a floating Starlink, an individual neural network floating Starlink. Elon can design that. Who knows? Let's not focus on space right now. Why don't we use some of this rocket ship proprietary technology to monitor Boeing planes so they don't crash? Have flying Starlink saucers, right? Possibly. Now, given the cost and the ROI model, you might need airplanes with less passenger seats, right? Because you want to keep up the returns. right? You got high speed, low latency. That sounds perfect as long as the Starlink can float. Now the floating part is that it's inserted on top of the airplane, which is not a stretch. So here's what the Starlink does. Let's say you have a floating Starlink up on the Earth, right? So there's some proprietary technology the US government uses, right? It keeps track of what's going on in space. You can connect it there, right? Isn't there a wireless? Don't we have wireless technology? I don't know. I don't really go on the net that much. The Starlink acts like an eye as a cipher, and it keeps track of where the airplane's moving at any moment. The Starlink can, I think, now, this may be too much of a stretch for someone like Elon. I think he can design it long run. He's the only one I've seen. I haven't seen any prodigies like Nikola Tesla out there these days. So, let's say you got what I would look at for the Starlink, and I want to look at, see if there's a Starlink database system, right? It's a low brand internet. And what I want is database information translated on what the fuel rods are for how much fuel is left over from the airplane, right? So one of the causes of airplane crashes is maybe the fuel suddenly gets low, like because of a weather hazard. Right? Just see what happens. If the fuel is too low and it's because of an electrical disturbance, I want the Starlink to send a signal, right, when it's getting disabled, to the main Starlink floating to either one of these airports and to the one in space, and then maybe it can send it to one of the airports, right? A general signal, a general Amber Alert. And then what it does is it alerts the airport, hey, this is about to crash. It could be a real signal or a false signal, but it's a notification. That way you can save yourself before the news media gets to you. I think you can design, I think it already works with the current Starlink. I could be wrong. I think so. It can be applied that way with a couple modifications. Right? You have to look at the airplane CMS software, right? I think that's what it's called. The autopiloting software. Add some apps. Add some new updates. You could probably do it via iPhone, can't you? You can get a CMS software app, can't you? Shouldn't be that hard. Just a copy. Programmers have some work to do. You might as well just fire, because, you know, people like boys like, I demand some penance payment. I'm sorry. I know what CEOs are like. That's my guess. They always know when to go on a firing crusade. People think Donald's bad, right? I saw the news media. Scary Donald. Nope. There's some worse things out there. You're gonna find out. And now, if they rehire them later, because you never know when you need safety employees, Elon might show up because they're just not nice people. So, use Chegg. You know where this conversation is going. It's going down south. Real south. Southbound. Anyways. Now the job recruiter might even say it too. It's like, that's true, you learn all this stuff, but how did you learn it? You know, maybe you can game the system, pass the quizzes, but I need people who are actually understand what's going on. Anyways, I'll stop talking. Yeah. That would be the way out. Get those airplanes to work together so they can have better, higher quality food. Try airport temperature. That's something Elon can do. Maybe create let's say Red Robin like quality style food. I don't really like the airplane food. Figure out what you can do. Yeah.